Every morning, millions of people feed their dogs without thinking twice. One family did exactly that until their dog suddenly stopped eating. The problem wasn't the meat. It wasn't the kibble. It was 5 tiny words almost nobody reads: vitamin and mineral premix. It's the most boring line on the label. The powder mixed into kibble in tiny amounts to make sure your dog gets enough vitamin D, vitamin E, zinc. It doesn't even list what's actually in it. Just that one line. A company called DSM Nutritional Products supplied that premix to Hill's Pet Nutrition. One batch had too much vitamin D in it. Dogs died from it. This wasn't a one-brand problem. Because nearly every pet food company buys its vitamin premix from the same small handful of suppliers, one contaminated batch doesn't just hit one bag on one shelf. It can reach dozens of different brands at once, all stamped with different names, all made from the same compromised powder. Almost nobody knows what that line on the bag actually means, or where it actually comes from. And where it comes from is not what the front of the bag wants you to believe. If you've bought dog food in the last 15 years, you've probably looked for this: Made in the USA. It's everywhere, and it's become shorthand for one thing in every dog owner's head. This is safe. This is domestic. This isn't the stuff that scared everyone a few years back. If you're like most dog owners, you've probably made the same assumption. Made in the USA means sourced in the USA. Grown here, processed here, no passport stamps. That assumption is wrong, and the gap between what that label means and what owners think it means is exactly where this story lives. Here's what Made in the USA actually means under FTC rules. The last substantial, economically meaningful processing step happened on American soil. That's it. A company can blend its vitamin premix in an Ohio facility using raw vitamin C, vitamin K3, and taurine that were manufactured on the other side of the planet, and still legally print Made in the USA on the bag, because blending counts as manufacturing. Sourcing doesn't count at all. Even the certificate of origin trick doesn't help you here. If a premix is blended in Germany, the paperwork says Germany, even if every individual vitamin inside it was made in China. The country of origin follows the last stop, not the first one. Which means, in a lot of cases, the pet food company printing that label genuinely doesn't know exactly where every input came from. Their supplier's supplier's supplier might be the only one who does. This isn't theoretical. Companies including Tyson, Fromm, Weisong, Merrick, and Wellpet have all faced lawsuits over labels like "manufactured in our Kentucky kitchens," and had those lawsuits dismissed. Why? Because naming a U.S. state or city is technically true. It just doesn't say anything about where the ingredients actually came from. It sounds like a sourcing claim. Legally, it's just a location. This label exists because of March 2007. Chinese suppliers deliberately mixed melamine, an industrial chemical used in plastics and fertilizer, into wheat, gluten, and rice protein, to trick standard protein tests into reading higher than the ingredient actually was. Cats and dogs across North America went into sudden kidney failure. Chinese manufacturers added the melamine specifically because it artificially boosts protein readings on cheap tests. A shortcut nobody caught until pets started dying and the FDA was finally forced to test the food itself. Until that point, nobody was checking. It became the largest pet food recall in American history. Roughly 180 brands pulled from shelves, thousands of pets dead by some counts, no official number because there was no national tracking system for pet deaths. The U.S. company that imported the contaminated ingredient was fined $35,000. 2 years later, a human food contamination case with 9 deaths sent its owner to prison for 28 years. Thousands of dead pets. $35,000. That's the scandal Made in the USA was built to make you forget. But the label didn't close the China gap. It just relabeled the whole industry as manufactured here, while sourcing stayed the same. It moved the gap somewhere owners couldn't see, from the finished bag into the powder blended inside it. So, where are we now, in 2026? The United States remains structurally dependent on imported vitamins for pet food. Over 60% of key micronutrients, vitamin B12, vitamin K3, taurine, are sourced from China and the EU combined, and China supplies the majority of that share. Here's the part that surprised me most. The United States doesn't actually produce enough vitamins for its own pet food industry. Instead, it depends on imports, and one country supplies most of them. Some individual numbers are even starker. Roughly 90% of the world's vitamin C is manufactured in China, and taurine, the exact supplement pet food companies started adding after the grain-free heart disease scare a few years ago, is almost entirely a Chinese export. Import records show 96% of tracked U.S. taurine shipments came from China, and half specifically from one city, Wuhan. This isn't a scandal in the sense of a single bad actor. It's structural. A handful of countries, mainly China, dominate global synthetic vitamin manufacturing because of scale, cost, and decades of chemical manufacturing infrastructure that the U.S. never rebuilt after outsourcing it. Your dog's food doesn't have a China problem because someone's cutting corners. It has a China problem because the entire global vitamin supply chain runs through there, for human food too, not just pet food. Here's the uncomfortable financial logic underneath all of this. Fully testing every single batch of premix for every contaminant is expensive. Paying out lawsuits when something goes wrong, historically, has been cheaper. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's just what happens when there's no regulation forcing full-batch testing, and the penalty for getting caught, like that $35,000 fine, is smaller than the cost of doing it right in the first place. Here's the part that should actually bother you. When pet food companies and premix suppliers were asked directly for a certificate of origin, proof of exactly where their ingredients came from, most wouldn't provide one. Not couldn't, wouldn't. Some claim verbally they don't source from China. Very few will put that claim on paper with documentation to back it. As of right now, there's only one vitamin premix company in the entire industry that advertises third-party verification of non-China sourcing. And even that comes with an asterisk, because there's no independent authority setting the standard for what verified even means here. That one company is NutriScience America, with a premix called VeriGen, launched in 2020, marketed as the first non-China verified vitamin premix in North America. Good step, but even VeriGen's ingredients come from European suppliers, not domestic ones, because almost nowhere in the world makes these vitamins at scale except a handful of countries, China chief among them. So when a bag says "Made in the USA," or "No ingredients from China," you're mostly trusting a claim, not reading a fact. As a dog owner, that means you're expected to trust a label you can't independently verify. None of this means your dog's food is dangerous. Most of it isn't. The 2007 crisis happened because of deliberate fraud, not because imported vitamins are inherently unsafe. Synthetic vitamin C is synthetic vitamin C no matter which country's factory made it. But the label on the bag was never designed to tell you the truth about where your dog's food actually comes from. It was designed to make you stop asking. If you actually want to know, the only real move is the boring one. Contact the manufacturer directly and ask specifically about vitamin and mineral premix sourcing. Not the whole product, the premix. Companies that are genuinely transparent will give you a straight answer. The ones that deflect with trusted suppliers and nothing more specific. That's usually your answer too. Ask specifically, is the vitamin premix, not just the finished food, sourced outside China, and can they provide documentation, not just a verbal answer? If a company says ingredients are sourced globally, or calls it proprietary information, that's not an answer. That's a company choosing not to tell you. Your dog trusts you every time you fill that bowl. The least the industry can do is tell you where what's inside it actually came from. If this pulled back a curtain you didn't expect, subscribe. And if you've ever asked a manufacturer this exact question yourself, tell me what they said in the comments. I want to know if anyone's actually gotten a straight answer,